Facebook lately.
In what respect?
Well, I was in the whatever the tea room owners group is called, the other group is called, and I couldn't like anybody's post. I did a post, everybody was commenting, and there was no like option at all. Who knows where? It was just weird. I'm thinking, I want to say thank you to everyone, but now I have to actually go in and reply to everyone. It's all the only option we can do is reply. So it's just doing some weird things.
I don't know. I've not seen it myself, but I don't spend a lot of time on Facebook, to be fair. So I've certainly not over the weekend. But I will keep an eye out for that and see what's going on. I know they're always changing things. It always frustrates me, especially when you're on your phone. You seem to have different options to what you have when you're on a computer. I don't know if...
Exactly, yeah. And my new phone has different options than my old phone as well. So.
Sure.
And where's Cookie?
He's outside. I didn't want the distraction today. He does have this habit of kind of nose-butting me every time I sit down to do a recording. So he's outside at the moment.
He likes to photobomb.
He does a lot. Right then, Jennifer, tell us a little bit about yourself while we wait for a few more people to come on. I'm expecting 3 or 4 today. Laurie and I have known each other for a little while. We've not spoken before either, so give us a little bit about yourself.
Okay, hi, I'm Jennifer. I'm from California, and I'm actually just looking into starting a tea room over where I'm at. So I'm actually going to go to the World Tea Expo in Las Vegas. I'm really excited. So I'm hoping to start one. I'm hoping this summer I'm going to get things rolling, but I have a lot of different ideas and a lot of obstacles to overcome. So but I saw your email, and I was really excited to see that you had something going on, and that's why I joined. So I have no idea what to expect for today. I don't know what I'll have, like, lots of questions, probably beginner level questions for you. So
that's fine. That's fine. That's what we're here for. And I am going to be at the World Tea Expo again this year, so we'll perhaps get a chance to see each other in person. And we're going to be running one-on-one consultations face-to-face, just free of charge. You can spend 45 minutes and go through your most burning questions. But let's see if we can't get you started at least today. So, Laurie, do you want to explain to Jennifer a little bit about yourself and where you are? Because you've been at this a lot longer than all of us, I think.
Really? Even longer than you?
Oh, yeah. I've been in business a long time, but I've not had the tea rooms that long.
Oh, okay. I opened my tea room just under 8 years ago. I bought the building on the day of the royal wedding, Will and Kate.
Oh, nice.
So I'll always remember their anniversary, not my own, but theirs. And so I have it's a restaurant / tea room. As much as I would love it to be 100% tea room, we have to serve soup, salad, sandwiches, hot lunches just to fill seats. I'm in a residential neighborhood, so I'm not in the downtown core. I have 30 seats in my main dining room, and I have a private little dining room that up to 12. I have one cook who's been with me since day one. I have a couple of part-timers that help out when we have large bookings. And the rest of the time, it's me, myself, and I. And so I open, I close, I clean, I bake, everything. I shop.
Whereabouts are you located?
I'm in Orillia, Ontario, Canada. So I'm about an hour and a half north of Toronto, which is our major city. And it's cottage country up here. We're in the middle of what is a destination for a lot of city folks to come up for the weekends and holidays. Our town is on the border of 2 lakes, and I live on the river up at the top end of the lake. And
okay.
Where in California?
Oh, I live in the Sacramento area.
Okay. Are you looking at doing it in your home or another building or on the road?
Yeah, thanks for the question. Okay, so I've been looking at this for like almost a year, and then now I'm getting more and more serious. But I tried to ask the county. The county's not going to let me do it out of my house. I am looking at like what commercial properties there are in my county to be able to do it, but it's pretty expensive.
Yes.
Especially here in California. I don't know if you know, California is probably like one of the most expensive states ever. I'd say like rent is like going to be at least $2,000, so that's kind of like really scary. And then buying a place, that's kind of hard to find the right zoning. I don't know what it's like in Canada, but oh my gosh, like you have to like be in the right zone and figure out what commercial property works for it. So that's kind of where I'm at as far as finding a real place. Since I ran into those obstacles, I was thinking that maybe I could start some kind of an online thing and see if that generates a revenue for me to be able to like feel comfortable renting at first or whatever. But I'm kind of stuck there. But yeah, I wanted to do it at home. I thought it would be really cool just to convert like my sunroom into a tea room, but that's not allowed here.
No, you have to have a separate kitchen, I think, don't you, to enable that to happen? And there might be
I could do that probably, but the thing is, like, just flat out they won't allow it because our county will, like, if you have a business, you have to have a business where you only have one person come every hour. That's their rule.
Okay, that's not going to work, is it? Not very sustainable. Yeah. Not very sustainable. Yeah. Okay. Laurie, I've muted you at the moment. I'm going to give Jennifer a chance if that's okay. We've gone, what are we, 3:08 now. I don't know if others will join us, but let's as Jennifer is already talking, can we kind of explore what Jennifer is looking for as far as questions? Then I'll shut up and let you add your wealth of experience to it as well, and that way we're not talking over each other. Is that going to be okay? And then we'll rotate back round again.
Okay.
So then, Jennifer, what are your most burning questions for me today?
Okay, so you just heard some of my obstacles, obviously. So I do have some money saved up, but I want to like be able to buy product and and so forth. So my idea was to start it going as, like I said, the online idea. And I was wondering if you thought that was a good idea, or like if you've done that. What I was thinking is if I could I have an idea in my head, like maybe make an online shop of some sorts. And this is the part where I'm going to go take like the social media class. I don't know if I'm going to use social media to get people to go to my website or what, but if I can I would be ecstatic even to get like a few hundred in the beginning, just to like generate something, to know that I have like a clientele going.
Yeah.
And then I think that's like what I'm calling phase 1. I don't know if that's
no, it's good.
And then phase 2, I was thinking maybe like if I can like find a local clientele where I can deliver rather than have a tea room to go to. But the only thing that I'm not sure about that is I feel like I'm going to be like a one-man show, except for if I can hire people or not. I don't know. Because I don't know if that's even feasible to do when you're not sure of your income. And then my step 3 would be hopefully to get a place to actually do a real tea room. My idea of a tea room would be like if I just do like Friday through Monday, and then maybe like, I don't know if this is a real ideal, I'm just making this up, but Tuesday through like Thursday kind of prepping, and like always do reservation only in the beginning at least. But I really liked how Lori was describing hers with, serving soups and salads and sandwiches and seats. But I think that would be like way later on, maybe in 8 years.
Like, okay. Taking little steps is always something that I would recommend, especially if you haven't got any experience in this area yet. Just to give you a little background on how I started. I made scones from home and I sold them at farmers markets, and that was permitted in my county. I was called a home-based vendor, and that enabled me to take product. I was cooking from home, but if you aren't allowed to actually cook from home, maybe you could look at acquiring teas or even blending. I don't know if blending is something you're interested in, but that's another possibility. And then taking that out to the local farmers market. The problem with going online is there's a lot of people obviously online, and I think any online shop needs to be backed up with a physical presence somewhere. Like I say, it could be markets, it could be events, fairs, where you're selling the loose leaf tea, or it could be where you're selling baked product. Have you decided what your passion is? Is it for the tea? Is it for the food? Is it for both? Have you got a thought on that yet?
I haven't really, I mean, my passion's more for the food, I suppose, more like the scones. And I liked your idea of going to fairs. I've actually talked about that. Yeah, actually I could cook from home. I just can't have people come here and do a tea room. So all I have to do is change, like I have to somehow get my kitchen to be a commercial kitchen, which I think just pertains to maybe like the sink and maybe the oven I have to check.
Yeah, certainly if different health departments in different counties and states operate different rules, so you do need to look into that. I was allowed to make in my own home with my home kitchen without any upgrades, but I could only sell to farmers markets. I couldn't sell to other events. And then what I did there, because yes, the 3 bay sink's important, but again, in my county, you're not allowed to cook personally. It had to be a separate kitchen, so I couldn't cook like my home stuff or have my cat, obviously, because that's a no-no. So when I went beyond the farmers market, I went to a commissionary, which is basically a commercial kitchen that you can hire by the hour, and that might be something that you want to look into. And that way you're keeping your overhead low and you're just paying as you go. But that helped me, and it took me, gosh, I started in 2011, and by 2014 I had my tea room. So it wasn't an overnight thing, and I took very small steps because I wanted to test the market, and I also, being British, I wanted to see if the stuff I wanted to put on the plate was acceptable to the American public. So I felt quite nervous about that, actually. But I've had my tea room now. I've got 2 tea rooms now. I have one that's 5 years old this year, and I have my second that will be 2 years old this year. So and one's really busy and one's a lot smaller, probably more akin to Laurie's setup. So I don't know if that gives you a few ideas to get started.
It does, yes. I do, like, I wrote all that down. So
yeah,
actually I was looking at that too. I saw when I was looking at commercial properties, there were people that do rent out their kitchens.
Yeah.
So that does sound like something
yeah.
to do. So.
Hi.
Oh, I'm sorry, I forgot about it.
Oh, it's okay. These things happen. Thanks for joining us. I'm going to put you on mute at the moment, if that's okay, just so that I can finish the conversation I've started with Jennifer, and then we'll just do a quick round robin again, and then we'll take it in turns. Is that okay?
Yeah, perfect.
Okay,
Thank you.
Just mute that one at the moment. Okay then, Jennifer. But what I would suggest is small steps. If you've got money in the bank, great, but hang on to it as long as you can. And do what you can with what you have without having to put a lot of investment in. And then any money that you make, you can reinvest. I would take it slow and steady, would be my advice. Laurie, have you got anything to add there? I'm going to unmute you.
I've lost the page. I can hear everything, but I've lost the page. I tried to hit a button and I lost everything. So I can hear you, but I can't see you.
Well, we can see you in a static pose, and we can hear you. So carry on.
Oh, okay. I can't see anybody. But hi, Anya. We've had many conversations. You're in Florida, right? Hello?
Yeah, I've muted her because we're actually finishing talking to Jennifer at the moment.
Okay. So Jennifer, the way I started was I had a traveling tea party. So I would book bridal showers, baby showers, usually at a hall or a church, or I went to nursing homes, retirement homes. And so I took everything with me. In those days, all I served were scones and tea, and I did bake them at home. Don't tell anyone. It was not a certified kitchen because I didn't know any better. You probably need to take some sort of safe food handling course. Check with your county health department as to what all of their requirements are. It's more than just sinks, definitely. But for renting space, sometimes church kitchens, they're all, at least here, they're all certified kitchens because a lot of churches prepare, on Sunday afternoon lunches and evening things, so they might be available. Here, $25 an hour, I can rent the church kitchen across the road from me, so that's always an option too. So I started out just taking everything out with me until some cups and saucers started to get broken in the trunk of my car, and I thought, okay, this is going to cost me a lot. And then I started looking around, and I looked for 2 years for the building I have. I did buy it, but it was 2 years because of zoning. Every time I'd find a place, I'd go to the city, and they'd say, no, find someplace else. So it was really frustrating to find exactly, because it's a tea room is considered a commercial restaurant and has to have full, in Ontario at least, C1 or C2 zoning, which is full commercial zoning.
Yeah.
I couldn't do it just in a house. I wanted an old Victorian house, and none of those were in the right zoning areas. So I took over an old restaurant. It had been a steakhouse for 30 years, and just gutted it and started over. And it's charming. It has everything that I want, but it's way more than I originally want. I just wanted 4 or 5 tables in my parlor, but couldn't do that.
Yeah, I think that's a really good point there, Laurie. That if you can find a building that's already a restaurant, it saves so much investment. And it took me 2 years before I found my ideal place too, just because I was looking for something that I didn't have to build out the kitchen for. I mean, there was still some cost involved, don't get me wrong, but it was a lot less. And I didn't want to invest in a property I wasn't buying, that I didn't own. So that kind of limits to how much I would put into a building. So I didn't want to have to, put in the 3-bay sink and, the grease trap, although I did actually have to put in a grease trap. And I know far too much about grease traps than is good for me as a result of that exercise. But yes, through the farmers markets are really good for connecting with other vendors. And I knew of other vendors that had used commercial kitchens in churches. So that is another good way of going on that. Any other questions for us at the moment, Jennifer, or is that giving you a bit of food for thought?
That's given me a lot of food to thought, and actually I've thought of a lot of things you've said, and I'm glad to hear that be solidified by what you guys are saying from your experience. So
yeah. Okay,
thank you.
Well, do stay on as we kind of go around. Let's Laurie, are you happy to go next?
No, I'm just I'm along for the ride today.
Okay, fair enough.
And so I don't have any real burning questions at the moment. I'm winging it. So
yeah, no, that's fine. It's always interesting to see what others are doing, and sometimes it sparks questions later. But I also appreciate the fact that you've had all the experience as well, and you're happy to share that. I do appreciate that. Okay, so let's mute here, and let's bring. Well, where are we? Here we go. Hey, how are you doing?
Hi.
Oh, it's nice to see you.
Horrendous. No makeup today. I'm so
Oh,
sorry.
no, you're good. You're good. You've been with us quite a while, actually. I think from almost day one, as well as Laurie.
Yeah.
You two have the most vocal connection, I think, on the TeaRoomSecrets Facebook group. So this is great that we can actually see each other in virtual space. So have you got any questions at all that we can help you out with?
I guess I don't really have any burning questions either right now, but and even when you mentioned the meeting, I thought, gosh, I can't think of any specific big questions, but it's basically, it's sounding to me like maybe Jennifer's wanting to do the same thing as me and what Lori said. And hi, Lori, I am in Florida, yes. And I kind of have looked into, and I think I've told you about this, Tina.
Yeah.
You know, that I want to do the mobile tea party business type of thing. So I guess maybe one of the questions I thought of is just how do you get over being afraid of biting off more than you can chew? Because I think I told you, you know, my mom has dementia and things, so it's not a perfect time for me. But the other day I almost thought maybe I should just put on my website, I'll do one a month and see if I get any takers, you know, and just say, you know, this is going to be on a very limited basis. Or what do you guys think about that? If that would be...
Okay, well, let me start off with my thoughts on this, because I did do a certain amount of mobile tea party catering. I was a big stickler for the rules, though, I must admit. I'm coming from a foreign country, I was petrified of doing the wrong thing. So I understand the fear factor. And for me, I felt it was almost multiplied because I was having to learn so much from scratch. Although I'd owned businesses in the UK and I knew about business, America scares me a little bit, you know, IRS and taxation and forms and not wanting to step out of line with the health department, not wanting to get closed down. So I was like really, really scared of all that. And that was really why I started doing little things, little steps. So for a year, I just did the farmers market, started to build up a bit of a following. And all I was selling there is I was making my jams to my grandma's recipe. I was making scones and then a selection of different pastries I would trial out. Some were great successes and some bombed. And some things at the farmers market when you're carrying food, especially in the hot Indiana summertime, which I wasn't used to the first year at all. I mean, 90 degrees and sweating down my back after a tent in the middle of a field. I mean, you learn a lot going through that pain. You know, some foods didn't hold. But I moved to a commissionary kitchen quite quickly because I wanted to go beyond the farmers market. And I knew technically that I needed that to give me the confidence, I suppose, to go out and offer tea party catering services. And that's basically what I did there. And that really started from somebody at the farmers market saying to me, Tina, could you come and do an afternoon tea for, I can't remember if it was a church or for a networking group. It was a small group, maybe 8 or 10 people. And I remember thinking, how hard can that be? I'm already making the scones, which I felt was the hard bit. You know, making a few sandwiches and making the tea, how hard can that be? So the first job I did was just as word of mouth referral. I wasn't advertising at that point. And I remember turning up and actually forgetting the tea bags. And I had to run to the store to get tea bags. And I wasn't doing loose leaf tea at the time because in England, you know, it's English breakfast tea served hot with milk, and we just call it tea in England. So I kind of stumbled through the first job, and then I didn't even have a website. I just did it through my Facebook page, and I had come up with the business name because I did incorporate as an LLC. So Tina's Traditional. My actual LLC legal name is, you ready for this? Tina's Traditional Old English Kitchen, because it said what it did on the box. That's how I came up with the name. Because Tina's Traditional or Tina's Tea Room, I think, had already gone. You know, so coming up with a name that kind of meant something. But I thought that's too long a name to have as a website address. So I just ran it as Tina's Traditional on Facebook, and business started to come to me, and I started to build a newsletter list. So when I was at the farmers markets, people would come up to me, and I would ask them, if they wanted to join my mailing list, so that I could tell them what scones or what product I would have, or if they wanted to make an order. So I started to build that, and it was that email list that really launched me into my tea party catering part of the business. But I did have a commission kitchen at the time, as in I was renting by the hour. I think I was paying $25 an hour as well, plus storage, because once it's made, you still need somewhere to store it, unless you're using it straight away. I see Laurie's making something. We'll come on to that in a sec. So, so how do you get over the fear of not biting off more than you can chew? That's a really good point, actually. And I think taking the little step builds your confidence, is what I would say. And then getting some support, having this group, I think, helps as well. Hearing what other people have done, some of the pitfalls to watch out for, and what Laurie was saying about breaking things in her car. I actually ended up in a car accident on the way back from a private tea party I'd held at somebody's home, and I'd packed all my stuff so well that although the airbag went off and my car was a total wreck, not a single teacup got broken.
Wow.
So I'll share how on earth we do that at some point if you get to that stage. So I would say put some feelers out. Maybe do it through your website and what you're doing currently, and just see. Eventually, I moved my commercial kitchen. I actually partnered with a restaurant not far from where I live, actually, and they had a second kitchen at the end of it's like an event space. So you could hire out this event space, and it had its separate kitchen, and it was only used on a Saturday night. So I went in and I used their kitchen as a commercial kitchen, and then on a Sunday I would do once a month a Sunday afternoon tea at that location. And even the commissionery that I had down in Indianapolis, they had like a cafe space that was closed on a Sunday. Well, Sunday afternoon tea in England is like the day to go and have afternoon tea. So I just promoted that through Facebook and through this newsletter list that I developed. And I was only looking for maybe 10, 12 people, and I was filling those. So you can start small scale without a lot of risk and without a lot of scare, without being too scared about it. So the little steps are the best way to go. Does that help?
Yeah, I think so. One of the things I was thinking, I do have a friend that owns like a sort of gallery slash, I guess, yeah, it's sort of a artist gallery, but more like crafters are there too.
Yeah.
It's not just high-end art. But I thought, well, maybe I could just start out even having a tasting there.
Yeah, or partner with your friend who has the gallery and collaborate and say, I'd love to do a tea party for an event. Can we set something up? And this is what I would need. This is what I would charge. And then, maybe do a revenue split on it, or ask her how much it would be to hire out the space. But I would perhaps start off with a revenue split on that, and go out with that. But yeah, you could just do a simple tea tasting or a tea sampling, but build it in and then promote it through your connections, and then she promotes it through hers. So there's all sorts of things that you can do there on a collaborative basis. I had there was a cafe not far from where my tea room is now that had a gallery at the side of it, and again it was event space that wasn't used very often, and they didn't open on a Sunday, or they closed early on a Sunday, and we partnered there and did little events. So you don't have to be all in. You can do these little things. But yeah, I think it comes down to having the right mindset. And certainly when I do my retreats, we spend the first part of the retreat just working on mindset and just making that mental shift to just reframe the whole thing. And we go through all your fears and all those things that come up for you, and then give you a pathway through. I always have this little mantra that is, start from where you are with what you have. So what could you do from where you are with what you have without it costing you anything or doing anything, scary? And then just take a step.
Okay.
Does anything come up for you in that?
I think so. I think it kind of reiterates what I've been thinking, because I don't know if I mentioned it to you, but I also was thinking of doing the classes in people's homes.
Yeah.
Sort of like that, paint, but instead of painting, it'd be cooking,
Yeah.
And I did want to, I thought, well, gee, if I could just start out, if anybody wanted just 8 people for a tea party, I don't want to do 20 people, or so.
No,
maybe
start small.
Okay.
Yeah, start small would be my advice there. And talk to people about, this is what you want to do. Maybe you can talk to your church group. Maybe you could talk to your friend that has the gallery. Reach out from where you are now to the people that you know, and see if people might be interested in doing something like that. And if you can team up, I've done many like mother and daughter teas at churches, especially around Mother's Day, which obviously we've just gone through. I've done speaking at libraries and taken tea samplings. There's all sorts of ways to get yourself started. And what you'll find is you'll do the first one and you'll be so pumped by it, and then you'll learn from it, and then you'll maybe tweak it a bit next time, and you'll gradually just take another step and another step. So that would be my advice.
Okay. So if you do a library thing, can you just bring the tea? They're not going to make you have some vendor permit to give people a sample of tea, are they?
Well, if you're doing it as a private event, all those rules go out of the window. If you are doing so if it was, say, at your friend's gallery and it was by invitation only, then you would be okay. If you are going to a farmer's market, then you do need permits. So, but again, you need to check with your local authorities on what the rules are. So I remember I probably spent 6 months doing so much research before I even kind of went out there, just so that I knew what I could do, what I couldn't do, what was the issue here, what was the issue there. And I still came unstuck a couple of times, but I know when I was with the commissionary that they were very helpful, and the health department people are very helpful. I know they're there to make the rules, but if you go in with, well, I'm wanting to do this or wanting to do that, then they'll give you the general, way of the world in that particular area. But I think if you're doing something privately, even into people's homes, you don't need to have all the right licensing to do that, especially if you're doing it for friends.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so I'd have a go at doing something.
Okay.
Okay, you look so scared. You look so scared.
Well, I hate looking at myself on this thing as part of it.
Okay. Well, you look gorgeous, darling, makeup or no makeup, so don't worry about it. And just a little mindset thing to get you over this idea of being on video. People have got to look at this face anyways, so that's how I do it, okay? So, we are what we are. But yeah, let us know how you get on with that, and if you need any further support.
Okay,
but I think it's something you should, maybe in the next 2 months you're going to do something for somebody. Okay. At least have a couple of conversations. It's not going to hurt to ask, is it?
No.
And it's not going to cost you anything either. So that's what I would suggest.
Thank you.
No problem. Looks like we've lost Laurie. She's had to scoot off. Let me. Where are we at? Let me unmute everybody. Has anything come up for either of you while we've been talking?
Yeah, I I have a question. So actually, that's another idea. When you were talking about the gallery and asking if you can do like some kind of a, hold on, like a revenue split or something, you know, that was another idea that I had. Like if I, because, you know, my boyfriend, we've lived together and everything for a while now, but he knows some people that own restaurants. And so we were like, well, what if we could like rent some space from there, like, or if they have some kind of room. What would you suggest, like, if I were to ask someone like that? Am I going to ask for like a revenue split, like you said, or do I just see if they'll rent it to me for so much an hour? Like, how would you approach somebody?
Yeah, I didn't do that as out of the gate. I kind of built up to that. But and I did have my commissionary kitchen. I was working out of Indy's kitchen at that point. But I do, and again, being out at the farmers markets was helpful for me because it made a lot of connections in that kind of space. But I do remember. Now, how did I find out about the restaurant I partnered with? Okay, so I partnered with 2 restaurants where I've actually worked in their kitchens. The first one was through the Chamber of Commerce. I did join the Chamber of Commerce, but I'd already set up my LLC and I'd already done a lot of pre-work before I did that. And it turned out the guy who was running the chamber in the town that I live in, his brother owned a restaurant, and he said, I know somebody who might be helpful because he's got this space. So we had a conversation and we just agreed the fact that I would not only use his kitchen, but I would also be able to rent the space. And I had built up a following by then. So I was happy to pay, you know, the $100 room fee or whatever it was, because if I brought in, by that point, I was probably at 20 people, and I was then basically catering onto that site from the kitchen that was at the site. So that was quite straightforward. There was a coffee shop that I worked with for a little while in another town nearby, and they were really struggling. And again, they were closed on a Sunday, and they had like a back kitchen that they hardly used. So I was able to work with them, and they charged me something like $30 for the room hire for a couple of hours on a Sunday. And then we got into a much deeper relationship after we did a couple of those. So, but yeah, you could ask about a revenue share, but I think to do it out of the gate with somebody that you don't know very well is probably a bigger ask than if you've got, you know, a brother-in-law that owned a restaurant and you could partner up with him and do that sort of thing. So I don't know if that kind of puts it into context a little bit there.
No, it does. I just was wondering how you would have approached that. I don't think I would do that in the beginning at all. I feel like I'm not that confident.
Yeah,
I
say it took some time to get to that level of confidence. But you know, think about, like I say, think about where you are now, who you know. Don't be scared to ask, because the worst that can happen is they say no. They're not going to laugh at you. They're just going to say, no, that's not going to work for me. I remember knocking on lots of doors. There's a bakery near me, and they always close at 2:00. So I remember speaking to them and saying, you know, can I not use your kitchen in the afternoon? And it was like, do you know what we do in the afternoon? We're doing all the prep for the next day. And it's like, well, obviously I didn't see that because I only saw it from a customer perspective, but there was all this other stuff, and they didn't want cross-contamination and using their equipment and blah blah blah, which, you know, is a challenge, and they said no, but it was okay. We just kept asking until we found somebody that could. But you know, your church is probably going to be a good starting point, to be honest, especially if they do have a commercial kitchen. Or doing stuff at home and going down the farmers market route might be a good one.
Okay.
Anything else for you?
For me?
Yeah.
You know, that she mentioned that another idea that I had kind of about the restaurant thing is, we have a hotel that has a restaurant, like they have a bar and a restaurant, and they have sort of a banquet area. And I've thought to myself, gee, maybe I should approach them about doing an afternoon tea sometime, just as one event, but in conjunction with their staff, to where, and I don't know, you know, that's why I'm asking you if you think that this sounds like something that somebody would be interested in. So instead of renting it and me having to do all the work, it would be more like I would, you know, give them the recipes and be there helping plan everything, and they would use my teas. And, you know, I do graphic design stuff, so I would come up with that kind of stuff that was needed, the print stuff. And, but anyway, I haven't actually done any approaching them about it, but I just wondered what you thought about that.
I suppose the issue I can see there with that is, why wouldn't they do it themselves with their own staff? So they might just listen to your idea and borrow it. So you just need to be a bit careful there. Having said that, I have spoken to, gosh, I think the issue is getting your kitchen. Without a kitchen, you're a little bit stuck if you're starting to go down if you're going to go down the commercial route. And by that, I'm thinking, you know, to do something private from your own home is one thing, but to do it through a restaurant, you've got to follow the rules, and they will make sure that you do, because obviously they're having to follow the rules. But it might be, I mean, I've spoken to a golf course before now, a golf club, and they were looking at doing some kind of Mother's Day thing with us where we just provided the tea. So that might be something, it's a slightly smaller conversation, but it's getting your tea. And maybe you go with the idea, I've got this great idea for an event that we could run at a time when it's not, you know, and you're not too busy and you haven't got an event already planned there, if that kind of exists in your world. But wouldn't it be great to do a Jane Austen event, and I've got these teas and we can do this, and maybe I can do a talk, and maybe we do a revenue share, or maybe you buy the tea from me and you pay me to do a talk about Jane Austen. You know what I'm saying? So there's lots of different ways you can look at what you do, and from that place where you are now, go and talk to people. And it can be a bit overwhelming, because I have an activity that I do in the retreat, and I call it the 50 ways. So I'm going to give you all this insight. Laurie, I don't know if this is going to be relevant for you, because you're not quite so at the starting point, but it might be. I mean, I do it every now and again anyway, when I'm just looking to develop more ideas. We've talked a lot about, oh, I've had this idea and I've had that idea and da da da. My activity for you today is, over the next 2 days, I want you to come up with your 50 ways list. Your 50 ways that you could possibly make some kind of revenue, be that through speaking at libraries, be that going to a farmer's market, being making your own tea, selling them online. I mean, these are just things that are coming to me off the top of my head. But if you get really, really quiet and go, I don't know how religious or spiritual you guys are, but I kind of know we're all connected, and when I go quiet and kind of go inside myself, I'm amazed at the inspiration that comes through. And that's why you need to do it over 2 days. Now, the first 12, you're gonna knock out the ballpark. You've already thought of them. The next 15 are going to be hard, but you get through the 30 barrier, and suddenly the whole floodgates open, and you'll have more ideas and you know what to do with. The first time I did this, I came up with 116 different ways I could make money.
Wow.
You have to do it though. You have to do the work. And if it takes you 2 or 3 attempts at it, but you really push yourself to get to 50, even if some of them are really kind of out there and you're thinking, there's no way I'm ever going to do that, don't let your self-doubt or your judgment come into play. Just write stuff down. And then when you've got your 50 ways, I want you to pick 3 things that you could do really easily from where you are now. That's the best way of breaking through when we have this block. And the way you pick those three, it's like, I could see myself doing that. I've got all the things I need to do that now. That really inspires me. God, that would be so exciting. So go where the energy is and where you feel comfortable now. You should at least come up with one, but I'm going to challenge you to come up with three. And then instead of having that mantra where it's like, oh, I couldn't do that, change your question. Change the question to yourself and say, how could I? How can I do that? How could I possibly? And then just say really still and listen to the answer coming through. It'd be amazing how resourceful you actually are, rather than coming up with all these, I couldn't possibly, I'm not ready, all those negative things. Because as soon as you say I am, it's the most powerful thing you can say. And if you say I'm not ready, your subconscious is going to go, I know you're not. But if you go, how can I? Then your subconscious is going to go, well, let's have a think about that. Yes. What about this? What about that? What about the other? And it helps you break through. So can I suggest you guys have a go at that?
Yep.
Yes, I'll do that.
Yeah, I think I've got you all unmuted. So is that something you are going to give a try at? And let's do a follow-up at some point and see where you're at. It could be on Facebook, it could be on another one of these ASTI or anything. What's come up for you and what have you found most useful today?
It's hard to say.
Well, since this was my first time, everything really helped talking it out, just to kind of think about it. But I really like that exercise. I've never done it telling myself 50 things or anything like so systematic. But I do think, okay, how can I achieve this goal? And so I like that exercise. So I'm probably going to try that the next 2 days.
Can I have a commitment that you will do it?
Yes, I will do it.
Okay. We all heard that, didn't we? Yes? Okay.
Yeah.
Flexibility helps too, because we end up sliding. So we have these ideas and we say we're going to do it and then life gets in the way. But part of kind of coaching and mentorship is just to have a little bit of accountability, and hopefully we can do that for each other. Anything come up for you in that, Laurie, at all?
Absolutely. I missed about 10 minutes. I don't know whether my internet went down, my phone just locked out, and so I just came back when you were talking about the 50 ways to leave your lover. So oh, that wasn't it? Sorry.
Yeah, no, that's good. Everybody's going to remember that now.
No, I'm actually going to try a few of these things too, because you get complacent and then you realize, wait a minute, business is dropping off. How do I get it back? What do I do different? And on the weekend, a lot of ladies were saying, well, what are you going to do next? What special tea party are you going to have next? So I'm going to get through Mother's Day, and then I'll think about June. I haven't even thought about June yet.
Yeah.
And it's just been overwhelming May. So I've got one more event this week, and then I need to work on some stuff for June. So
Yeah. One of the things that I've done more recently, and we didn't come out the gate with this, but something that's worked for us quite well, is because we put all our events through on Eventbrite, and it reaches people that we wouldn't normally reach just through the tea room. So I'm a big advocate of Eventbrite, and we can talk more about that at another time. But what I do now is I have a calendar. Well, it's actually a spreadsheet, month by month. And obviously May is Mother's Day, and December is going to be our Dickens event. And so I go through the entire year, month by month, and think, what would the main event be? So I'm actually building out a calendar of events at the beginning of the year. In fact, I usually do it around October. And then you can duplicate that into following years. So you're not having this panic of, oh my gosh, I've got no events planned for June, what am I going to do? And then by the time you figured it out, you might not have enough leads to actually sell the tickets. And then you're not being as effective as you could be. So that's just an idea that I've been doing now for the last couple of years. And we have, in the summer we don't do as much just because people aren't around so much. And like January and February we usually do Downton Abbey in January, for example. and that brings in more revenue at a time when the weather's pretty bad and you might not get the revenue otherwise. So have a think about that, if that helps.
I took that advice when we talked, I guess, last fall.
Yeah.
And so we had our best winter ever.
Yes.
Because we planned at least one event every month, special, over and above. Plus we had our, bridal showers.
Yeah. I call them special events when they're your events, opposed to other people's events.
Exactly. And it has been wonderful. So the next step is I just need to continue on. It was because you flip the calendar over and oh my God, it's already June.
Oh gosh, yeah. Where's the year gone? And as we get older, I think it just, oh my goodness, it's scary. It really scares me sometimes. Yes. But yeah, I'm always future pacing. That's what I call it. Always looking ahead, planning the next thing. So my challenge is to be present, because I'm always looking, and then I forget what day it is because I've been planning, 2 months in advance, and it's like, where are we? Oh no, it is May. I'm still in April in my head, so that happens sometimes too. Okay, Laurie. And Anya, what's come up for you? What are you going to be taking away from this?
I'm definitely going to do the 50 things by the end of the week, or maybe I'll do it pretty soon. My husband just got home, but
okay.
I really already, I feel like I can do the thing at my friend's shop, and I'm going to start writing out like the offerings for the classes.
Yeah.
Because that's in somebody's home, and I feel like at least if I have packages to sort of show people.
Yeah, absolutely. There's a whole piece of work that we do around, I call it the service definition, and actually saying this is what we do, this is how long it's going to take, and this is what we charge. And just having that in your back pocket, as it were, or on your website. It doesn't even have to be on a website, but knowing that that's what you do. So when people say, oh, I'm interested in, you can go straight into automatic and say, oh yeah, we do this, it's going to take this long, and it's going to include this, and it's going to cost this much. And because you're just telling people, you're not feeling like you're selling. So it's a massive hurdle to get over the fear of selling. I mean, we're all girls, I think we hate asking for money. It's just how we kind of wired. But rather than selling something, you're just telling people, well, this is how I do things, and the price is just part of that. So that would be really useful, I think, as well.
All right. That's what I'm going to do. I'm going to come up with a service definition for a lot of this stuff then, for the tea party catering and the more dinner classes, I think then. Yeah, that would be really good. And also remember libraries. If you have a talk, I mean, I do a Downton Abbey one, I do a Jane Austen one, I do a Dickens one, so I actually force myself to write a talk, one for the 12 months of the year, depending on the season and the topic. I mean, that took a bit of work. But you don't have to have that many, but you can sit down and do that. And then approach your libraries, because libraries actually have a budget. And I found that $150 for a 45-minute talk is the sweet spot in my area. I've also spoken to other people in the TeaRoomSecrets group and people that have been on the retreat who have gone in at $50, and it's like, you're leaving money on the table. But like I say, 150 is the sweet spot. For 45 minutes, did you say?
For 45 minutes.
Oh, that's good, yeah.
Yeah, and I set it up on the laptop through PowerPoint, so they've got pictures. I don't do like bullet points, I just do pictures and images. And then I have, I kind of go through it in my own mind what I'm going to talk about. And then the prompt is the picture, or the picture becomes my prompt, but it's also something for people to look at. And then I put the PowerPoint on a memory stick, and I say to the library, I'm going to bring my PowerPoint on a memory stick. Have you got the laptop to set up for me? And they usually do. So that kind of solves some of those problems as well. I think I've lost her.
Yeah, I think I know too.
I pressed the button and now I can't get it working again.
We can hear you.
Okay. For some reason I can't get this back.
I did
Oh,
some tea tastings at our local library. So I charged them for the cost of the teas and you know, I don't know what it was, $10 a person or something like that.
Sure.
And they were really good. So yes, I'm doing a talk, but it's an interactive, and they're sampling different teas, and maybe I just take, it might be some desserts, it might be some scones. You got to figure out what you can transport and all of the materials you need to go with. So scones are the most labor intensive because you've got to have a separate container for the jam and the curd and the cream, and plates and knives and napkins. Whereas, you know, lemon curd tarts, they get the lemon curd, and it's easy to eat.
Yeah.
Find things that work well, but it takes some teas and get them to sample, and then maybe you get some retail sales out of that as well.
Yeah. What I've done to kind of extend that a little bit more is because the library has budget for adult education, and what I've found is a really good balance is I charge for the tea talk, and then I offer sampling as an extra. So I charge $250. No, I don't. I charge $2.50 per person for the samples. So that covers my cost of the tea. And then I get paid $150 for the talk. So that's a nice little package of work. I have done like afternoon teas at the library where I've just done scones and tea. And then I've taken containers, and then people can just help themselves to that. So that's worked as well. Sometimes I've done cucumber sandwiches. But know that, oh yes, and how the library pays for that is they'll put a ticket price of maybe $10 or $12 or whatever you're charging for the food element, and then they'll pay you the $150 from the budget for the adult education. At least that's what's happening in the US. I obviously can't comment on what's happening up in Canada, but it's worth noting that you know, there is potentially some funding.
Our libraries are all on tight budgets right now, so it makes sense.
Okay, yeah. I think it's slightly different, isn't it? But yeah, it's good that you're doing that. And of course, and are you allowed to sell your tea at the library? Because we're not.
No, usually they come in. You know, you give them your card, and
Oh right, yeah. I must admit, I've done a few deals in the parking lot because I'm not allowed to sell it in the library. But I always have a
Same
few.
with our library. They won't let you sell it in the library.
No, you're not allowed to actually transact money in the library. But I say there's ways of leveraging that. But that was very good for me in my early days. I don't tend to do as much of it now, but it does get you in front of people that you wouldn't normally get in front of. So it's good visibility. Yeah. Okay then, ladies, we're coming up to 4 o'clock. Yeah, so we've got some commitment to be doing a few things. You're all going to do the 50 ways, whatever that looks like for you. And let's touch base at some point. I think I've got you all connected through Facebook Messenger. If not, reach out to me and we can get that sorted out. I am going to be at the World Tea Expo in June. We're actually launching TeaRoomSecrets, the coaching program. If you're interested in having a look at our website at TeaRoomSecrets.com, you'll see that I've got a retreat coming up in July, which is going to be a tea business retreat. And we are going to be going to a couple of tea rooms, and we are going to be doing some blending, but most of it is going to be around the business of tea rather than tea itself. And then my coaching program, my paid-for coaching program, is going to get launched at the event as well. But we're still going to keep the free Facebook page if you're not at that level yet. But we're trying to build a framework of support, a container of support, if you like, because I know I'm not going to open a tea room in every state or every city or every country, but if I can help other tea room owners or tea businesses, you don't have to be a tea room owner. The name Tea Room Secrets is the idea that it's a discussion forum, like in a tea room, where you're just sharing secrets or sharing, some good stuff with like-minded people. So that's why I'm doing what I'm doing, and it's just so nice that you guys are open to that and are interested enough to kind of turn up, and good luck doing the work. Would you do one of these again? Can I just get a quick? Yeah, yeah, absolutely.
This was helpful.
Okay. Well, I'm going to leave you, and we'll see you next time. Thanks again.
Bye.
Thank you, Tina.
Oh, you're welcome. You're welcome.
Thank you. Have a good night. Good day.
Good night.
Bye.
Bye.